In ASP.NET Core Blazor, components are the fundamental building blocks of the user interface. In this video, we are going to learn how to create components, how to use them, and how to pass data to them. Hello everyone, and welcome to the ASP.NET Core Blazor for Beginners. I am Narendra Kumar Sharma, a Microsoft Certified .NET Trainer. Today we are going to learn how to create components, how to use them, and how to pass data to them. The ASP.NET Core Blazor is a component-driven framework. That means components are the fundamental building blocks of a Blazor application. They are self-contained portions of UI with C# processing logic defined using the Razor file extension. The components in Blazor applications are .NET C# classes that can be nested, reused, and if we implement them properly, then it can also be shared across multiple applications. The component files have the extension .razor. The component class is usually written in the form of Razor markup page with a Razor file extension. Razor is a syntax for combining HTML markup with C# code designed for developer productivity. It allows you to switch between HTML markup and C# in the same file. A Blazor component has two main parts, a template and interaction code. The template uses standard web technologies such as HTML and CSS. The interaction code is implemented in C#. The simple component contains a template with a single h1 HTML element. The content of the h1 element references the title property of the C# code within the code block below the components template. Outputting the value of a variable is very simple. We can use the @ symbol followed by the property's name as defined in the components code section. We can use an @ symbol everywhere in the template when we want to reference code from the components code section. Components render into an in-memory representation of the browser's document object model called a render tree, which is used to update the UI in a flexible and efficient way. The most important point that you need to remember is the component file name should start with an uppercase character. If you add a component file with a lowercase character, then the code will fail to the compiler and you will get an error. Let's open VS Code and create a new Blazor web app project and understand Blazor components in detail. Let's go ahead and launch VS Code. Once you are in VS Code, create a new Blazor web app project. Press Ctrl+Shift+P to open the command palette. Type .NET to see the commands that you can run with C# DevKit. Select .NET New Project to create a new .NET project. Select Blazor Web App Project template. Browse the folder location where you want to create your project. Name the project Blazor app. Press enter to confirm your input. Select .sln solution file format. Select create project to load the new Blazor app. Your project is created in VS Code and several files have been created to give you a simple Blazor app that is ready to run. Inside the components directory, pages folder, this folder already contains some example web pages for the app. Now let's go ahead and start the app by clicking Run and Debug button. Now that will build and run your Blazor web app in the debug mode. There is our Blazor web app running in the browser. We have navigation menu on the left side here. We have home page. We have counter page with a button that we can click and the count goes up. We have weather page that shows weather forecast data. Let's add a counter component to the app's home page. Open home.razor. In home.razor, add page directive. This add page directive in ASP.NET Core Blazor is used to define a routable component and specify the URL template at which it can be accessed. Page title, it's a component that sets the title for the current page so that it shows up in the browser tab. Each of the Razor files in the pages folder defines a UI component that can be reused. Let's add counter component here at the end of the file. Start the app to see the changes. The counter component should show up on the home page. This counter component is showing up on the home page. Now, let's also add weather component to this home component. Start the app. The weather component should show up on the home page. Now, weather component is showing up here. So it is very easy to use Blazor components. It is used as a custom HTML tag on a page. Open counter.razor. Let's take a deeper look at counter.razor file. Blazor components can contain both C# logic and HTML markup. Add page directive. So a request for /counter in the browser as specified by this page directive causes the counter component to render its content. At render mode directive, this directive enables interactive server rendering for the component so that it can handle user interface events from the browser. Then we have template. It contains HTML natural tags. This is code block. The code block is where you typically write C# code that is directly related to the rendering logic of the component. It is similar to code behind file in traditional ASP.NET applications, allowing you to include C# code that is tightly coupled with the component's HTML markup. It contains fields, properties, and methods. We can use functions block also. Let's create functions block. The functions block is an older syntax that is less commonly used in modern Blazor applications. It was used in earlier versions of Blazor before the introduction of code block. It is used to declare functions and methods that are associated with the component but are not directly related to the rendering logic. Functions declared inside the functions block can be called from the code block or from the HTML markup. Let's define a function in functions block. Name it increase count. Let's call increase count here an increment count. Run the application. Counter page. click me button and counter is going up. This count is going up. So on click of this button, this increment count is being called. Increment count is in turn calling increase count, which is defined in functions block, and increase count is incrementing current count, which is being rendered here in P element, current count. In modern Blazor development, the code block is the preferred way to organize C# code within a component due to its more explicit syntax and better separation of concerns. The functions block is still supported for backward compatibility, but its use is less common now in modern Blazor applications. We can extract this code block to code behind file. Let's revert these changes. Now to extract this code block to code behind file, click on code, click light bulb, click extract block to code behind, and if you see here in Explorer, okay, we have counter.razor.cs, and in counter.razor.cs file we have partial class counter. So in this case, what compiler will do, will combine this partial class with the class which will get generated from the counter.razor file. Think about a razor file as a C# class. Start the app. Now we have code in a separate file. Start the app and check if the counter component is still working fine. It is working as it was working before. But now we have code in code behind file. I actually prefer to have code and markup in the same file. Let's revert the changes. Now we will see how to add control flow logic to a Blazor component. If you have a requirement to implement a condition to display some HTML based on some C# logic, current count greater than 3, let's display some HTML. Display some text. Run the application. Click me. 1, 2, 3, and if you click it one more time, it will show well done. Now we can have a loop also. So for loop, let's use for integer I equal to 1. Now check if the value of I is less than equal to current count. Increment I. Let's display unordered list. And li display button clicked. Run the app. and now it is showing button clicked. So this is how you can add some control flow logic to your Blazor component. Blazor component is a powerful combination of HTML and the C sharp. Let's check weather.reso. We also have this weather page, okay, that displays some weather forecast data. Attribute stream rendering directive. This directive is used in a Razor component to enable progressive rendering of the component's HTML while data is still being loaded. Here we are checking, do we have the weather forecast data yet? If not, then display text loading. And if we do have the weather forecast data, then render this table. Another loop, we have another loop here. Okay, that is looping over each weather forecast element. And this here we are rendering a table row, rendering each value of weather forecast data. We are rendering date, temperature, summary. And down below, we have on initialized async method. This is a special method in a Blazor component that gets invoked after the component is created, where you can initialize some of component state. Let's run this application. Open weather, navigate to weather, and initially it shows loading. Initially it shows loading, and half a second later it loads this data. So if you navigate to this again, initially it shows loading and then it shows this data. So once we have this forecast data, the table renders the data, and we can see here on this page. Let's change this delay to 2000 milliseconds, 2 seconds. Run the app again. Navigate to weather. So initially it shows loading, and then 2 seconds later it loads this data. We can also pass parameters to components. For passing data to components, we can use parameters. For example, in the counter component, we are incrementing the current count by 1. Now we want to be able to specify by how much the value of current count variable should increment every time the button is clicked. So to do that, let's first remove this. So to do that, define a component parameter, and component parameter is just a C# public property. So I'm going to add a public property here, public int increment amount get set and set it to 1. To make this property a parameter, use parameter attribute. Now increment this current count by whatever value is of the increment amount. Now go to the home component. In home component, use this parameter, increment amount, set it to 2, run the app, and on every click it is incrementing by 1 here, and on home page it is incrementing by 2 because increment amount is set to 2. This increment amount can be a C# expression, so we can use 1 plus 2 here. Save it, run the app. On home, if you click this click me, it is incrementing by 3 because expression is 1 plus 2. On every click it is incrementing by 3. This attribute, this parameter can be set to a variable also. So create a code block and declare a variable private int amount, set amount to 3. Now set this parameter to amount. Run the app to check this change. On home page, if you click me button, it is incrementing by 3. And the counter component continues to increment by 1. Next, we will see how to create new components, and we will learn more about Blazor components. We have a new Blazor web app project opened in VS Code. Let's add a new component to the app. To add a new component, add a new file to pages folder. Select pages, click new file, and name it my component dot razor. Add a code block. In code block, add a property, a public property, public string title, set it to some text. Let's set it to my component. Display value of title in h1 element at property name, title, add my component to home page, select home page, home.razor. At the end of the file, add my component, start the app, my component is showing up on the home page. Now add one more razor file to the pages folder. New file, name it my page dot razor. The only thing we need to turn this my page component into a page is adding the page directive at the top. The Blazor component model allows us to turn a component into a page by adding the page directive. My page. So in this case, we are using the / my page root as the root where the page will be accessible. The page directive registers the component as a page and adds the root to the ASP.NET Core routing provider. Now add my component to my page component. Start the app. Make a request for my page. My page is showing the content of my component. Sometimes we want to reuse the implementation of a component but need to provide specific data for each instance. In Blazor, we only need to add the parameter attribute to turn a property into a parameter that can be set from outside the component. Instead of setting a value for the title property that is the same for all component instances, let's accept a title from the parent component. Use parameter attribute. In the parent component, in our case the my page component, add a value for the title property when referencing the component in the template. So let's set it to title from my page. Now start the app. Make a request for my page. Now my page is showing the content of my component with the value we supplied from the my page component. Now let's create an interactive component with the understanding developed so far. Add a new Razor file to the pages folder. Name it hello.razor. Use page directive. Hello. Display some text. Let's display hello Blazor. Create code block. In code block, add a property, private string current time. Okay, let's make it a variable. Private string current time, date time dot now dot to string, supply format, define a method. Let's name it update time. So every time this update time will be called, current time will get updated. Here, display value of current time. So let's use P element. Add one button. Put text. Refresh time. Class. Set class to btn. btn primary. And on click. Set on click to update time. So every time this button will be clicked, update time will be called, and update time will update current time with current date time. Run the app. Navigate to hello. Click refresh time. Time is not updating. So currently this component is not interactive. To enable interactivity, we need to apply render mode to the component. To apply render mode to the component, use at render mode. Use interactive. Server. Run the app. Now navigate to hello. Click button, and on every click this time is updating. Now let's add navigation to access the hello component. To add navigation link, under layout, open nav menu.resolve. Copy this. Set href to hello root, and put hello here, put hello text here. Run the app. And now we have this hello menu item in the navigation bar. Click hello. Click refresh button. It is working. So in this video, we learned how to create Blazor components using Razor syntax, how to use them, how to pass data to them, and how to have dynamic rendering logic. We have seen that a Blazor component is a powerful combination of C# and HTML, and Blazor components build the foundation of a Blazor application. Each Blazor application consists of a bunch of Blazor components glued together using a simple HTML template. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.